Welcome to the Friday Five. We got 5 questions from the past week. We'll give you some quick answers, and hopefully there's some questions that maybe you have as well. My name is Andrew Ayers. I'm an estate planning and business law attorney with offices in Edina, Minnesota and New York City. This past week we had a variety of different consultations, and we've got 5 different questions we want to look at. Number 1, what happens to my old healthcare power of attorney when I sign a new one? Now, this is a pretty common occurrence these days. People will have healthcare directives and healthcare documents from the last few years, especially once COVID came through. It became really important for us to check those healthcare documents and make sure they're updated to the correct people, being in the right places, so we know who's making the right decisions. So this question came up in the context of having prior healthcare powers of attorney and what happens when we sign the new one. And when you look at your healthcare power of attorney document, you'll probably see at the top of page 1, it's usually one of the first provisions, it's going to say that this power of attorney hereby revokes all prior powers of attorney. So then the most current one, the newest one, the one you've just worked on, that'll be the power of attorney that the doctor's going to want to see, and those prior powers of attorney are no longer effective. Number 2 for this week, do I have to divide my estate equally among my children? And the answer quickly to this is no, you don't. You can divide your estate however you would like to divide it. But this is a strong reason why you need to consider having an actual estate plan. Because if you were to die without a will, and that's called intestacy, you died intestate, then what happens is they apply the local rules, the local laws of the state where you live. And in almost all states, what happens is your property is divided equally amongst people at the same level of relation to you. So for example, if your parents are gone, you have no siblings left, and let's say your spouse has died as well, and so the next set of people to inherit are your 3 children, the law will presume that the 3 of them inherit equally. However, you may have reasons why one child may inherit more than the other. Maybe one was taking care of you, or maybe another one really doesn't need the money while your other child really is struggling financially. So if you're considering having any kind of unequal inheritance for your children, you want to make sure to have an estate plan. Question number 3 this week, what do I do if my case has sat for too long? So I had a consultation with a woman who had a case that was filed years ago, and it's just been sitting there. Nothing's been happening in the case, and when she reached out to her prior attorney, the prior attorney is actually not even practicing law anymore. Now that's a whole separate issue of the prior attorney should have told the client that they were no longer practicing law and returned the file to them. But generally, if you have a case that's been sitting there, especially one from 2020 or before, you want to get in touch with your attorney and find out what's taking so long and what steps you can take to get it moving. The courts are slowly catching up to the backlog from the last couple of years, and so cases are starting to move again, but you want to make sure your case isn't just forgotten about and sitting there on some pile. Number 4 this week, should I get a lease for my business space in my own name? Now this came up in the context of a couple of soon-to-be business owners. They want to start their business, they've identified an office space, and they figured they would just sign the lease in their personal names and be ready to go. This is a big danger to you because it's putting your personal assets on the line. So my advice to them was wait before you sign the lease. Let's get your LLC set up and have the LLC be the party that signs the commercial lease, because technically it's the business that's going to be leasing the space. Now, when you're dealing with a landlord, you have to understand that with new businesses, ones that don't have any history of earnings, there really has no credit if you just set up this new business, they're going to want some kind of guarantee. So they'll often give you either a personal guarantee or a good guy guarantee to sign that says if the business goes out of business or is unable to pay rent, that you and your business partners will be on the hook personally for any outstanding rent that's due. I'm not a fan of these for new business owners because, of course, you're putting your personal assets on the line if the business goes under, but in a lot of cases, it's going to be the only option for you to get that first lease for your business. And number 5, can I convert my LLC into a PLLC? So these same business owners, we're also going to be opening a business where there's going to be licensed professionals involved down the road. And in that case, a PLLC, a professional limited liability company, is going to be the best setup for them. But at this point, those licensed professionals aren't going to be part of the business. So the question was, can they then convert their LLC into a PLLC down the road? And for this, I'm going to give you the traditional attorney answer, which is it all depends. So you'll need to check with your local state, but in most cases, you are able to convert an LLC to a PLLC when the time comes. But again, make sure you speak to an attorney, work with a professional to make sure you can actually do that. So those are our 5 questions for the week of December 9th, 2022. It's been a cold one here in Minnesota, but the holidays finally feel like they're coming around, and before you know it, the end of year will be here. If you've got questions for future Friday Fives, there'll be a link in the description of the video. You can click on that and submit some questions. And if you don't, you just want to move on and not ask any questions, then I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you back here next week.